Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to my student recital. I'd like to thank you all for being here and showing your support for these 7 very talented, lovely young ladies and musicians. I wanted to share a few things with you, about each of them. The one thing I would like to get across to them, and I try to teach them this at their lessons, is that music can be enjoyable and it is very fun. And when they go to contests, which they recently did, it can be very nerve-wracking because you have someone sitting there and they're judging you and they're giving you a score. But when it all comes down to it, what you're doing is performing music for an audience. So I hope that they can learn that performing for people can be fun. And I hope that today can prove that for them. Because obviously these people are here to support me, ladies. So I hope you can just relax and enjoy yourselves a little bit. I would like to thank Pastor Hunt for the use of his church today. I'd like to thank my mother, Virginia Faber, for all her help, my boyfriend, Paul Beard, for his help, the parents of my students, and anyone else who is helping out downstairs that I may have forgotten. Laura Meyer, I always forget Laura, and she always helps me. Thank you, too. There are 4 other people I need to acknowledge today, and they are the accompanists. You cannot do a recital without an accompanist. They're vital to the music. And I have 4 accompanists here today. Jeannie Meeks is from Sterling, and she's accompanying 4 of my students. How long have you been teaching? Jeannie's been teaching privately for about 10 years in Sterling, and she accompanied a couple of my kids for contest also. Virginia Shoemaker, she's accompanying her daughter today, and let's see, 8 years, Virginia? That's what your daughter told me. She's been teaching privately for 8 years. And then Carol Brown is going to also accompany, and she has helped me a lot of times in music also, and she's a very talented musician, also an accompanist. And then Ruth Hedstrom, who is also accompanying me today, and Phyllis Hunt, who will also do a piece with me at the end. And I would like to acknowledge these people, and please make sure you talk to them downstairs too. I think they deserve a round of applause right now. I have a little poem I wrote for my young ladies today. This is how it goes. The day has finally come for you to play for all your friends. And all that you can think about is when will this day end? Your stomach's turning inside out, you're feeling rather sick. And all you really want to do is get this done real quick. Be not dismayed, your friends are here to cheer you on your way. They'll judge you not, for all they want to do is hear you play. You're all prepared, you practiced hard, you'll do your very best. And know that I'm behind you as you go about this quest. Should you happen to make one mistake while tooting on your flute, just shrug it off and let it go, for I won't give a hoot. And when this day is over and all's been said and done, my one great wish for all of you is that you had some fun. I apologize for the programs. This is what I call last minute waiting, not having my computer work or computer paper. So I kind of use line paper, so they're not real fancy, but they do have everyone's names on them. My first student is going to be Nikki Whitlock, and I would like to share a little bit with you all about each student. I tried to pick out one characteristic about each of my flute players that stood out the most, and if I could only pick one, I wanted to pick one that I would want all the other girls to have. So for Nikki, it was easy that I think her greatest asset is her joy and enthusiasm and pleasure when she achieves something. As we grow up, we learn to be extremely inhibited, and we're afraid to say when we do a good job because we think it sounds conceited, or we're told not to boast ourselves. And what you really need to do is you need to have positive self-esteem as a beginner. And Nikki is the only person who will throw her arms up in the air when she does something well and say, oh, it sounded good. And it usually does. And I wish the rest of my students here today could adapt that into their playing. So that is easily Nikki's greatest asset. And I will be playing a duet with all my students to begin. I thought maybe it would ease their minds a little bit and calm their nerves. So I'll ask Nikki to come up, I'll do her duet with her, and then she'll do her solos. Nikki Whitlock. I'm not going to run up and down those steps anymore than I have to. My second student is, can everybody hear me? It's hard to tell if I can be heard, is Kyla Glodiak. And if I want to pick out Kyla's greatest characteristic that I would like the other students to take on, it would be her desire to learn. She always wants to learn as much as possible when she comes to a lesson. She's never afraid to take on anything. And she never seems to feel overwhelmed by anything at all. And this is a very good characteristic to have also. Kyla has only been studying with me a couple of months. She used to play a stringed instrument and decided to switch over to flute. So she only played about 3 months. She's a freshman in high school. But she did take her solo to contest. That took a lot of guts when you've only been playing for about 2 months, probably 4 lessons in 2 months. So I will have her come forward now, Kyla Glodiak, to do her duet and solo. My next student is Rebecca Bushman. Rebecca also just recently came to me not quite a year ago, I think last May or June. She switched over from violin also to flute, and going into high school as a freshman, only having maybe 4 months of lessons, worth of flute lessons, I should say. She went into high school against freshmen all the way through seniors, 15 flute players, and she was seated 4th chair, so I think that speaks for itself about how hard Rebecca works. And if I could give one of her characteristics to the rest of my students, it would easily be her persistence. She is always prepared at her lessons, always prepared. I'm just teasing. And she never complains about it. She comes prepared all the time. Usually she has more than I can handle for a lesson, but she's worked hard. It's very difficult to change from one instrument to another, but both these young ladies are doing a good job of it. So with that, I'll ask Rebecca to come forward. Rebecca Bushman. Kelsey Brotheridge. Kelsey's been studying with me, what, a year, Kelsey? Just about a year. She's in 7th grade, and she's quite advanced for her age. She's doing a very good job. If I could pick one characteristic of Kelsey's that I would like the other students to have a little bit more of, it would be her extremely positive attitude. But I really wanted to pick something about her flute playing, which everyone hears me say 100 times in their lesson every week. Please give me more sound. Kyla plays with a nice big sound. They don't have to yell at her to blow more or breathe harder or breathe deeper. And this is a good quality to have, and it's something I stress in all my players. And they will all play with a big sound by the time I'm through with them anyway. So, but with that, I'm going to ask Kelsey to come forward and do her duet and solos. student is Kristen Slifer. She's looking at me really suspiciously. I don't know if she's afraid I might say something scary about her or insulting, but I won't. I was going to because she did forget to pay me the other day for my lesson, but I'll take it out on her next week instead. I've had Kristen about a year and a half, going on 2 years this fall. Kristen is not the same girl that walked into my studio a year and a half ago. She was extremely shy, and I knew she had potential and talent, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get her out of her shell to play and to really enjoy her music. But I was wrong, and Kristen really does enjoy her music, and she's come very far in a very short time. And if I had one characteristic I really wanted to pick of Kristen's that I would like everyone to have, it would definitely be her fast fingers. If something is played fast, then Kristen will play it faster. And the nice thing about that is she's usually 100% right on. So that's probably her best characteristic in her flute playing. So with that, I'll ask Kristen to come forward. Kristen Slifer. Once again, thank you, Jeannie, for coming. My next student is Lori Shoemaker, and I've only had Lori for a very short time, too. A friend of mine who also played flute and was a flute teacher, a wonderful flutist and teacher, had originally taught Lori. So the nice thing that I realized when I got her was that I didn't have to break any bad old habits. And it was actually very easy to pick Lori's strongest quality, too. I tease her a lot about being shy, but she has a quality that I admire because I tend to get very nervous and I tend to worry about things that are not important. Lori can go into an audition, she can go to Allstate, she can sit in front of a judge and jury, and it doesn't bother her a bit. She's unflappable, and she doesn't get nervous, and this gives her an edge in her playing and in her competition. And if all my kids could learn to have that, and myself, that would be wonderful. So I would like to ask Lori and her mother, Virginia Shoemaker, to come forward to do their pieces. Thank you again, Virginia, for coming. Our last student of the day is obviously the student I've taught the longest, Joanna Messer. And I might talk a little bit more about Joanna. It has nothing to do with anything except for the fact that I've taught her longer. The one thing that I've realized through teaching is that I have learned more from these students and these young ladies than I've learned from myself, and what they've learned from me. I can go to Joanna now after 3 to 4 years of teaching her when I don't know what to do with a new student and ask her what I did with her when she was having a problem with something. And she can usually tell me what I had to do to get her over the hump. And that's very nice. And as my other students progress, they will be able to help me in the same way. I'm going to say easily Joanna's greatest asset would be obviously her ability to feel music, her musicality, and to get that across to the audience. And you cannot be a successful performer if you can't play with feeling. And if your audience can't feel it, then it's not going to be very successful. This is something that everyone learns to do, and most of my students can do it, and they learn to do it a little bit more all the time. But it's something that does take time to learn. And don't be mistaken that Joanna had this the first day she came into a lesson. She was very shy too, and I never thought I'd ever get Joanna to play something that was bold, because she was so laid back. I didn't know how to get her energy going, because she was just always so relaxed. So one day, in one of her lessons, I was trying to get her to play faster and be much more assertive. And I finally asked her if she ever got angry. And she said, yeah. And I asked her if she ever got angry at her brother. And she said, yes. And I said, okay. I said, when you play this piece next, I said, I want you to pretend that you're hitting your brother when you play it. So she played it, and I stopped her. And I told her, I said, Joanna, you just tapped him. I said, I want you to knock him clear across the room. And I never heard her play it like that before, but boy, was it good after that. So that's something that I will have all my students aim for also. So with that, I'll ask Joanna Messer to come up. Anyway, thank you all, young ladies and students. You did a wonderful job. I think some of you have been holding out on me because some of you played pretty tremendously, and I think you've been holding out on me in lessons, not trying to give it 100%. Now you're all going to have to work even harder now that I know you're this good. If I took Nikki's enthusiasm, Kyla's desire to learn, Rebecca's persistence, Kelsey's big sound, Kristen's fast fingers, Joanna's musicality, and Lori's unflappability, I'd have the perfect flute player. But then I'd be out of a job. And besides, I like all these girls just as they are. They did a good job, and I'm very proud of you all. You all bring a lot of sunshine into my life every week, and you've taught me a lot, and I'm glad you're a part of my life. And I would like to play a piece for you. My flute teacher told me I had to play at my students' recital also, because he said that way we know what they're going to aim for. The piece I've chosen today is a standard flute piece, and I'm hoping that all of my students will try to play this piece either in high school or college, and I know they all have the potential. It's something many of you heard before, and hopefully you'll hear it again through your students, or through your daughters, I should say. Ruth Hedstrom is going to accompany me. Where are you, Ruth? Oh, there she is. And Ruth and I have played together many times. Whenever Ruth and I play together, the unexpected always happens. She played this piece with me for an audition at the University of Wisconsin to get into the School of Music. And we were in the basement, and there were no windows, obviously. And we were in the middle of the piece, and the lights went out, and it was pitch black. I don't know how, but Ruth and I kept playing, and for some odd reason, we quit at the exact same moment. And we waited, and finally the lights came on, and one of the judges walked in and he said, "Well, I'm sorry." He said, "I went out to get a drink of water, and I didn't want to disturb you, so I leaned up against the wall and I hit the light switch by mistake." And that's one instance where it's happened, but I'll tell you what, it keeps you humble, and it adds a little humor into your life. So with that, Ruth and I would like to play the concertina by Schaumburg. While she's coming up, I would like to thank Nikki for the flowers, the Brotherages and Sliders for the flowers, Ruth Schmidt for the flowers, and anyone who I forgot. And I'd like to thank these young ladies once again. And you all did so well. I'm very proud of you. And thank you all for showing them your support. And it's wonderful to have such a nice crowd on a beautiful day when I'm sure you'd rather be outside. So thanks for being here. Thank you again. My students tired me out on all those duets.